Welcome to Innovation in Government. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is Juliana Vida, the Chief Technical Advisor for Public Sector at Splunk. Juliana, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you.
Let me set some context for our discussion. The latest data on IT modernization efforts across government shows a lot of good news. If you look at key performance indicators, the Office of Management and Budget released as part of the President's Management Agenda, you'll see 75% of all agency email is in the cloud. That's up 3% over the December 2018 results. If you look at the latest Federal IT Acquisition Reform Act or FITARA scorecard, you'll see more grades of A than ever before. Agencies really took the requirement to manage their software licenses to heart, with 20 of 24 agencies receiving the highest letter grades for that effort. Additionally, 14 of 24 agencies received A's or B's in the areas of portfolio reviews and transparency and risk management. So obviously there's a lot of progress. The biggest surprise from both OMB's IT modernization results and the FITARA scorecard is around cybersecurity. Both of these reviews indicate agencies continue to struggle with securing their networks and their data. Under FITARA, for example, there were 3 A's and 4 B's, so 7 out of 24 show they're doing well. Under the PMA key performance metrics, OMB says there have been more progress on specific initiatives like software and hardware asset management, where 17 and 16 agencies respectively have met those goals. But you see continued struggles around important protections like intrusion detection and prevention and authorization and management capabilities. And if you remember, the whole reason agencies are on this modernization journey in the first place is because of the stark realization back in 2015 that old systems, what we call technical debt, was really hard to protect and only getting harder. So while there's hope, there's also opportunity. And once again, that's where our guest comes in to tell us how agencies can take advantage of all those opportunities. My guest is Juliana Vida, the Chief Technical Advisor, Public Sector for Splunk. So Juliana, let's start at the beginning, IT modernization. What are you seeing? What are you hearing when you talk to agency customers? Where are they in this journey?
Right. Thanks, Jason. And thanks for going over the progress here, because that is encouraging. But one thing I'd like to do is kind of step back and just talk about what modernization is. By definition, it's a process of adapting something to modern needs or habits. Let's look at Netflix. So Netflix did this. They adjusted to people's modern needs and habits of staying at home for entertainment. Blockbuster, on the other hand, simply adjusted their legacy store-based model. So Netflix is now a tech giant and Blockbuster is out of business. Like Netflix, agencies and government should adapt faster to the changing needs and habits of today's Americans. They want good service for the taxes they pay, and services that are easy to access and use.
You make an interesting point about the Netflix versus Blockbuster. You know, here's a trivia question for you. There's one Blockbuster store left.
I do.
Where is it?
Is it Cleveland?
No. Alaska.
But it's in the Midwest.
Alaska.
Oh,
yeah.
what?
It's the last one.
Did not know that. I knew there was one.
And I think, but the point you're making, I think, is really important, because what Netflix has done, and this is what agencies are moving toward, is this idea of this DevOps culture, this idea of you're always modernizing. You're not just saying, okay, we got to a point, we're done.
Exactly.
So when you guys have that in discussion with agencies, talk about how are they executing on their IT modernization plans? What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I see often is getting back to this, adapting to modern needs and habits. That's for across the board. That's people's how they live and work. That's how they think. That's what their mindset is. And what we see is, of course, we're a tech company, so we see a lot of focus on the tech. But personally, and this is one of the reasons they brought me to Splunk, because I have a view from being a Fed myself and a retired veteran, is that there's more to the picture. There's more to the story. And it's about culture change and mindset shift and having a vision, really. The vision should be modernization to execute on the mission. So in the case of NASA, for example, the mission is, exploring space and putting people in space. It isn't data center consolidation. So when we talk with agencies and customers, we try to tie their technical needs to the mission. And that's really the only way to be successful. And that includes keeping people educated, making sure they get training opportunities, making sure that they see themselves as part of the future vision and not just doing the same job that they've done for the last however many years, because things are changing too fast.
I think that's underlying the point of tie tech needs to mission. I hear that more and more from the chief information officers and other federal executives. They're asking more questions about what the customer needs. We've heard a lot about user-centered design and the customer experience and user experience. And I think that's a key piece. So as you have those conversations, where do agencies need to go to really kind of grasp that concept of tying tech to mission?
Yeah. Great question, Jason. But sometimes I find myself thinking, well, we're all customers of the government. We know what citizens want. We want better services. Think of it like every other service that you get out in your personal life. You get that survey and it says, give us, rate us on a scale of 1 to 10, but please give us a 10. Government should be thinking about that. Citizens deserve that same level of service. It isn't really a mystery. And the thing about people is that we like to say what we want. So we do surveys and we chat online and we post on our social media. But a lot of that information that citizens are giving is lost. It's not harnessed. It's not harvested. It's not used for any purpose. And frankly, that's what Splunk does. We go in and we can kind of suck up all that content that's coming in from whatever source and make it usable so that the government can actually make decisions on it and move faster.
I definitely want to go down the path of the data discussion, but I'm going to push back on you for a sec, right? Mm-hmm. And you say we're all the customers, but I think there's a theory or a belief that if we're all the customers, nobody's the customer. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of agencies really do focus on who is my customer. They have to answer that question first. And then it can't be everyone. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if it's agriculture, there's a big push at the agriculture department around farmers, right? And we've seen a lot of the centers of excellence and IT modernization efforts around farmers.gov. Mm-hmm. But if you look at NOAA or the National Weather Service, we all want to know about the weather, so their customers are different too. So when you talk to agencies, how do you kind of get them to focus on, and this goes maybe the data question, what's the most important customer, or who is your P1s, as we call them in radio?
Right. So you're right. I mean, each customer, farmers are not as important to NASA as they are to USDA, for example. But again, I go back to most federal agencies have a website. They have a presence. They have communities of interest where they engage with whoever their core customer is. But the problem is that whatever information is coming from that customer community is often not leveraged in a way that informs policy or informs technology buying decisions or informs future strategy. It's kind of out there as a nice to have. Yeah. The farmers are talking about this in their community chats and in their trade publications. But we're gonna just keep doing this over here on the policy and strategy side when really they should be married up. People are sharing information. It's just that agencies they've struggled with how do they capture that? How do they capture what's being given to them, frankly, freely, and use it to make better decisions and take action? Does that clarify that a little bit?
It does, but you leads me to the next question, of course. Well, how do they do it, right? And please, let's start with, where's the cloud fit into this? Because we have to bring in the cloud as a discussion point.
So I'm glad you mentioned the cloud because I
have to mention the cloud.
Yeah.
We cannot not mention it.
Right.
Ahead.
So the cloud, artificial intelligence, machine learning, RPA, all these and like big mature capabilities, they all rely on big data sets. Without good data, an AI system cannot mature, cannot learn, cannot adapt. So it all goes back down to the data source, and that's the space that Splunk and others in our industry we play in. But often what we see, what I've seen as a federal government employee myself, and then through industry, is that the data piece has kind of been pushed off to the side because it's hard. There's privacy issues, there's legal issues, it's hard. So like data strategy. Data strategy has been slow to come along because that's the hard piece. But without getting your arms around that, you're not going to get to a real efficient cloud instance or a hybrid cloud where you've got some on-prem and some in the cloud, or some commercial cloud and some gov cloud. You've got to focus on the base. It's like building a house on sand, that old analogy. It's the same exact thing. So the technologies are there, but without the right focus on harnessing, capturing, analyzing, and using the right data, they're suboptimized.
In fact, the Federal Chief Information Officer, Suzette Kent, recently spoke at an event where she talked about cloud, but then she tagged it back to the data strategy that OMB just released and really put a finer point on it that says the data strategy can help you with your IT modernization. The data strategy can get you to the cloud faster. And I think that's kind of the point you're making is you have to know what you have. You have to know where it can go, where it can live, and what the privacy and security around it must look like. And then once you know those things, then you can modernize. Is that the kind of the point you're making too?
Exactly. I was so glad that she made that point because that's true. However, the devil's in the details. So the strategy is fantastic. It gives agencies, a way to kind of think about, okay, I have to understand my data to move forward, but it helps industry react and provide the right solutions. The challenge that we often see is how agencies and organizations will then go about capturing their data, what vendors they're going to partner with, what technologies and capabilities do they really need. Those details are really, really important. It's one thing to have a 10-year modernization plan, for example, or 5-year, like the DoD just came out with. It's another thing to empower the agencies and the operators within those agencies to go after the technologies they need, to get out there and talk to the vendors, talk to the industry, talk to industry partners, and quickly get those capabilities because they're moving too fast. And so, in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges is just all the bureaucracy that's in place, the paperwork, the processes, the approvals, that is old legacy thinking. That is not the thinking that is going to get the right capabilities into the hands of users, citizens, warfighters, and those who want to make the world a better place.
And this, in fact, tags back to the beginning of a conversation that you made to really set us up, which is culture change, different way of thinking. It's not just, hey, go buy this new capability. It's really all about think about how you want to serve the citizen differently. And in many ways, you'll probably tell us, data leads the way. Data is your path down that to really make improvements.
It is. The old saying, Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It is true. It is absolutely true. And what does that mean when we say culture? Culture is the way we do things around here. It's how we treat people. It's how we empower them and motivate them. And I think the words kind of intimidate people, and they shouldn't. If I'm a career government civil servant, but I've only ever been, doing budget analysis, and I hear, well, you need to learn about the cloud, and you need to learn about AI and ML and data, I might immediately turn off and figure, well, I don't have a place here. And I'm just going to keep doing my thing that I've always done. That is not motivating to people. People want to have purpose. They want to see themselves in the vision of the organization. And this is a great opportunity. I think that's the best thing about the focus on government modernization is what an opportunity to re-energize your workforce. Give them new things to learn. Give them new things to do. And people will respond. They want to come to work and make a difference. But that's all about setting the right culture of innovation, allowing people to get the education and training that they need. Send them to the conference. Let them go to those senior level meetings where usually only the senior executives or flag and general officers go. Take others with you so they can learn and not have to basically call themselves out for, I don't know this stuff, you need to teach me. Let it happen to them organically, and people will respond. It's cool stuff. They want to be a part of it.
One of the biggest challenges you hear is this term culture. It gets thrown around all the time. Over the last 20 years, I've heard, well, it's not the technology that's the problem, it's the culture is the problem. So I think we have maybe a little bit of crying wolf syndrome because we've been talking about culture for so long. Just real quick, are you seeing a culture change happening in government with this IT modernization, with this cybersecurity, with this push for data?
Yeah. But back to Suzette Kent and the policies and strategies that have come out from the government. I am so happy to see that workforce cultivating talent are a part of that strategy. They're not left out for people to just go figure out. It is front and center. This culture and workforce transformation is part of the modernization roadmap, and you have to pay attention to it. The technology is there, just like you said, and it's evolving, and people are out there wanting to help the government get better. But without people in the environment feeling like they can actually grab it and use it, and they know how to use it, it's going to be useless. So again, I'm glad to see that government leaders are adding that piece into their strategy and policies moving forward.
On that note, let's take a quick break. We can come back and jump into that data question. You're listening to Innovation in Government, sponsored by Carasoft on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network.